Joel Schumacher, the king of camp, directed Batman and Robin, Batman Forever, and The Phantom of the Opera. But you know what else he's known for? The Lost Boys, which might be the most straight but gay film I've ever watched in my entire life. And it's iconic. But is it a good film? Let's get into it. So what's the plot of The Lost Boys? The Lost Boys follows brothers Michael and Sam, and they recently have had to move to a coastal town in California because mum's broken up with dad, so they're moving in with their grandfather, and he's got this massive house, right? I don't think Americans realise how fucking well off they are. But anyway, it's the 80s, and it's all popping off in this coastal town. Everyone's partying, there's always festivals going on in the streets. It looks amazing, and I think, do you know what? That's probably one of the best parts of the film, because the rest of it is so ham and just so thin on character and story that all you really need to get you through is kind of the visual kind of panache that it's got. The costumes are fantastic. You know, look, let's bring back tank tops in men. That was a thing. Also, lots of unnecessary amounts of jewellery. That was a thing. Also, patterns, furs, you know, baggy jeans, rolling on motorcycles. It's just cool, but in like a really kind of surface level way. A bit like the story. So, you move into this coastal town of California with Sam and Michael, and Sam's big into comics. Cool dude. And he goes to this comic book shop and he bumps into these two twins, and they're called the Frog Twins. And they are by far, with Sam, the best characters in this film. I mean, as I said, you don't get a lot of character depth in these films, but, you know, you've got to take what you can get. And the Frog Twins, they serve up. So they introduce themselves with these really deep voices for these quite young teenagers. Like, they go up to Sam and they give him this vampire comic and say, "Hey kid, read this vampire comic. If you do, it might save your life." And Sam kind of blows it off and goes, "Nah, I don't like it. I don't like vampire comics or horror comics. I'm more into Batman." And they bond over comics. And I'm really engaged. This is taking me back to my childhood when I had lots of hair. So, you know, but they tell him that vampires are real and he blows it off. Now, during this time, Michael has fallen in love with a girl on the streets. Ooh, and do you know how we know? Because they look at each other for longer than 3 seconds, right? Anyway, she does the thing that they used to do back in the day, and she literally runs away, and he does the thing that they used to do back in the day that wasn't creepy at all, and chase after her, and they carry on looking at each other, and they might make some small talk, and then it turns out that, oh my god, this girl, she's already with some guys, and they're all like dressed in black, and they're cool, and they're scary goth dudes on bikes, and they all drive off. And they are the same guys that you see at the start of the film that seem to be doing some bad stuff. Now, the film opens up in this kind of like infinite party scene, which it kind of envelops all of the pedestrian scenes in the films. If it's not shot inside, like, then you're always on the streets, and the streets are fucking rammed all the time. It looks amazing. It looks like London Carnival, but all the time. It looks fantastic. But anyway, I digress. The start of the film opens up with these lost boys all in a gang, and they're kind of like trying to get with guys as girlfriends, and the girls are really into it, and then they fight, and then the police guard comes over, says, "Hey, scram it, kids," or some bullshit, and they scram and they go away, and Kiefer Sutherland, who plays the lead lost boy, says something with his peroxide dyed hair and says, "You'll regret this," or some bullshit, I can't remember. There isn't many memorable lines in the film, and it disappears, and then suddenly there's these camera shots, you know, that are attached to this helicopter, and that we're flying around the coastal town of, it's basically like California, right? Just imagine California. I don't want to keep calling this coastal town, but it's California, and it's flying around. You hear this whoosh sound, and as the security guard stroke police officers walk into his car, you whoosh down with the camera, and the fat police officer gets plucked out off the ground like a chicken nugget out of a fat sod's hand in Mackey's, and that's the opening of the film. And Star is going, this girl, her name's Star, of course, that Michael's fallen for, goes with them, and there you go, you got the central plot. Michael then pursues them a separate time after Peroxide died. Kiefer Sutherland challenges him to a motorcycle duel, and then they drive along, and that bit of that chase scene, quote unquote, is quite cool, as well as the iconic bit afterwards where they're hanging off a railroad that bridge that crosses this ravine, and they goad Michael to follow them. That's as much story as I can really give you, because there is a story from there. It's silly, this film. It's silly but stylish in this very kind of surface level manner. What's great about this film, other than kind of the location, the fact that it's shot on location, the fashion is amazing. Visually, it's a feast, and the cinematography, for the most part, is quite good. But it is the stylized kind of style that's very in your face. It's a bit pick-me style, like, look, we're doing things, iconic kind of like crossfade things that we let die in like the 70s and 80s. Lots of like really bright lights and trippy colours. And you know what? It's fitting for this film. Now, you could argue that there is a meta-narrative in terms of vampirism and wanting to fit in and all this sort of stuff, but to be honest, I don't really think there's any point looking under the hood, because it's a hot rod, this car. It goes fast, and it's silly, it looks stupid, but you know what? It's quite fun along the way, so don't look into the details too much. And that's really this film. It's directed by Joel Schumacher. As I said, Batman and Robin, Batman Forever, Phantom of the Opera, silly, camp, ham. There's some iconic bits I previously mentioned. There's a motorbike chase scene. They hang off a fucking railroad bridge at one point. All the flying kind of vampiric stuff is masked with the lack of kind of like special effects through helicopter and crane shots. There's some good special effects in terms of makeup and stuff. But really, it's the surface level stuff. The surface level stuff is kind of like, icing on the chocolate cake, except you don't have a lot of sponge there, right? There's not a lot really going on. And I went and saw it with 3 friends, and they were jokingly saying, this is the best film ever, you can't critique it, it's just iconic. And I'm there like, yeah, cool. And they're right, it is iconic, and I understand why it's etched into people's minds. But look, the characters are caricatures, very flat. There's some memorable lines of dialogue, but fuck me, like, all the time, Michael's character, who's, got this long kind of perm and curly hair, conventionally attractive, square jaw and everything, but he won't stop pursing his lips throughout the whole film, right? It's so homoerotic, but there's no gay scenes in it. It just hurts, and that just kind of like is Joel Schumacher's, filmography at this point. So it's kind of fun to laugh at, but look, is this a film that is going to completely envelop you in the world? No. Is it a film that really kind of makes sense in its logical dimensions? No. Does it fuck? There's a fucking whole, like, mum subplot where she's being romanticised by some guy who works at this VHS store, and until the end of the film it seems completely superfluous. But you know what? I was there for it. I was like, yeah, mum, you get some dick. You deserve that after a big fucking divorce. Because I like the mum. So, look, silly film, iconic for its stylish and surface level reasons. You don't need to, your life will not be altered massively if you don't see this film, or if you do see this film. Was this probably a big film maybe to closeted gay men or the LGBTQ plus scene? Yeah, it might have been. If someone told me that, then I would not be surprised. And I'm great that that this film serves that purpose. Is there a character in the film? Not sure. I quite like the Frog Twins. They're quite funny. Michael just purses his lips at everything that happens in the film. Star's called fucking Star. There's a kid called Laddie in the film. Sam's the best character, not biased at all. The vampires do vampire things. Kiefer Sutherland has pretty much all the lines of the Lost Boys. To say the film's titled The Lost Boys say and do fuck all really. They just go, yeah, eat 'em, and that's about it, and drink blood. But otherwise, it's quite flat, stylish. It's a good time. You don't need to see it. It won't change your life, or it might change your life. It's one of them classics that's classics for a self-evident fashion.